conservation district where we concentrated on farmstead, livestock, windbreaks. And so I'm going to kind of tackle it for maybe trees that I like that would be for rural areas, maybe rural cemeteries, or just, outskirts of areas. Like even in town, if there's somebody that has a site that may not get the best watering and care, that's how I'm going to tackle it. But anyway, I'm going to try to watch my 15 minutes. This is a slide of an aerial photo of a portion of my land. This is in northeastern Cheyenne County, Nebraska. An aerial photo. Short grass prairie, like Justin said, but a lot of cropland was broke out back in the early 1900s. I am one that likes to plant trees, and so here's an example. My 50 years of frustrations. This is quite the challenging environment out in western Nebraska. Droughts, desiccating winter winds, extreme temperature fluctuations, high soil pH. In eastern Nebraska, we'll see these as well. But these are my frustrations. Maybe we should be happy living with just our short grass prairie. And then I go, nah, we need something refreshing to protect us from that sun. And I found too, how many years does it take to plant a tree to where you can recommend it? For me, some of these trees, it's been 20 years that I thought, actually 15 years. And at that 16th year, that something might have been, challenging. So I don't know if there is a good example, a number of years that the tree can survive and all of a sudden you recommend it. And then some of these trees I'm going to talk about obtaining the source, the seed source, because most of the trees I'm going to talk about, a fair amount, are probably not readily available at the garden centers. My 2 cents worth, I guess, to consider seed source. It's amazing. I'll talk about that a little later. Search for selections, hybrids. I love my hybrid oaks, and with hybridization, you can take components from 2 different trees and make it a great tree for western Nebraska. Consider how much care you're willing to give your trees after planting. Because, if somebody wants a tree, if they want a tree, they just want to plant and maybe water the first year and walk away. That's going to be, a group of trees that I would recommend. But if they want to try to look at babysitting that tree for several years and give it care, that's going to be another selection of trees. Always there's diversify, no matter where you're at, always diversify. I'm going to start with lodgepole pine. Out here in western Nebraska, we have native sources of ponderosa pine and limber pine in our NRD up against the Wyoming border. This is a selection of lodgepole pine that is available. It's called Taylor Sunburst lodgepole pine. The picture on the left here was planted at a co-worker's place near Sterling, Colorado, back in 2014. Some of the damage here, he had a deer rub on this, and so some of the branches aren't filling in. This is an example of why it's called Taylor Sunburst. When it buds out in the spring, it will have this brilliant yellow color, and as the summer progresses, it will all turn to the darker green. But that is one. I've got one in my place. These trees are really not cared for. You can see it's kind of the outlying area. Might get some water, but they are tough. So you figure at least 10 years on this one. Pacific blue Macedonian pine. This is a source I found from several years ago, planted in 2014. Minimal care. It has it's a 5-needle pine, beautiful blue gray color. I don't know how available you're going to see these, but it's one that I would like to see a few more of these of. There's a Bosnian pine in the background, and of course here's a crimson spire oak. Once again, like I said, my passion is hybrid oaks. This is a English oak crossed with a live oak, and when I say live oak, that's the Turbinella source, and there's some native turbinellas down there southeastern Colorado. The original source for all my hybrid oaks was from Oikos tree crops, and there's some history behind that. What I like about this is when this buds out, in this, when they get the new growth on, we see about 2 to 3 foot of growth per year. The leathery leaves gives it that drought tolerance from the live oak, probably 15 to 20 foot tall. But we see this beautiful bronze color on the new leaves. The acorns show the English oak characteristics, and just the leathery, pointy leaves. And here's one in my yard. I've still kind of need to prune it up, but you can kind of see where that's at. Then there's the bur oak cross with the turbinella. Once again, any hybrid oaks, in my opinion, would grow faster. You're going to see acorn production a heck of a lot quicker than if it was a true bur oak. This is one. This actually it was planted with a conservation tree, and I never got it dug up, and now it is kind of close to the house, but oh well, I'll live with it. Weeping willow, out in western Nebraska, you might see a handful of weeping willows in yards. I don't know, say eastern Nebraska, but you just don't see many of them. And the reason, I think they're just so finicky. My mother always liked a weeping willow, and I don't know how many trees I planted over the years and never could get them to survive. This is a selection found in Dickinson, North Dakota, called Prairie Cascade. If you know where Dickinson, North Dakota is, it's on the very western edge near Montana, and a very similar dry, exposed site. So we were able to, find that selection. This tree was planted in 2021 in my yard. This was just taken a couple of weeks ago. So you're going to get rapid growth. It does get some water, some runoff from my little patio here, but never has shown any dieback, no issues whatsoever. Oaks, there are so many oaks that we can, bur oak, chinkapin oak. I mean, you go on and on, but chinkapin oak is a no-brainer. I know Justin there in Kimball, the Arboretum, there's a beautiful chinkapin. You're seeing a lot more of them around. Source for those are going to be readily available. Sawtooth oak, I think just regular sawtooth oak, you don't find it very readily that I know of, but this is from Oikos Tree Crops years ago. They collected a Korean seed source on this sawtooth. This sawtooth oak, I can't remember how many years ago it was planted, but this is actually in a field windbreak. Conservation CRP grass. No initial water, maybe the first 3-4 years, but it's doing fine. It's survives our 2012 drought where we had 6 inches of precipitation that year. No acorn production yet, but that's something to consider. Once again, finding those unique seed sources. We can get them stuff to grow out here. Heritage oak. This was planted as about a 4-foot tree in 2020. This is in the city of Sydney. Rapid growth. Once again, between the English and I believe bur oak, or correct me if I'm wrong on that, but once again, it's you get 3-4 foot growth per year. It's astonishing in my opinion. And we're just starting to see a few more of these planted around the city of Sydney. I think they gave some of those out at the Tree City USA tree giveaway here this last spring. Bismarck, North Dakota seed source. This is one that great for western Nebraska. Seed source is from Bismarck, North Dakota. Once again, it's a sycamore that will not winter kill, in my opinion. The tip dieback is not there. It's tolerant of high pH. Once again, this is planted in the fall of 2021, and look at them now. Once again, this is a source that might be hard to find. I don't know if there's any nurseries that are collecting seed. I don't know, maybe Great Plains Nursery had a source from the seed. These were actually planted. The source was come from the conservation tree nursery out of Bessie. Richard Gilbert was glad to grow them as conservation trees, and I just can't say enough about them. Okay, now I'm going to hands down trees, because once again I'm going to start talking about the trees that may be planted in the open areas, not much care, Taylor juniper. You can't go wrong with them. I mean, if you want an upright screen, Taylor juniper, plant them. Once again, this is a multiple selection of trees on the outskirt of the hillside of my farm. And so we showed the Macedonian pine, we showed the Bosnian pine, so many different selections of Bosnian. I don't know if this might be Emerald Arrow. I can't say. Tannenbaum Mugo pine here in the background. And then here's another Bosnian pine. I think it's a little different selection from what this one here is. But Bosnian pine, Tannenbaum Mugo, you cannot go wrong. City of Sydney has some Bosnian pine between the railroad right of way and one of their main streets. There's not a grass in it, it's all just rock. They may supplement water those, but talk about a very poor site to get any tree to grow right off the edge of a railroad right of way. You should look at their Bosnian pines. That's a great example of what those trees can do. They maybe only grow maybe 7-8 inches a year, but it's not going to be a huge tree, but think about them. Okay, then hackberry. Once again, you know, a lot of people think hackberries are weedy. You look at a fence row in town where it's been neglected. You're going to see all these hackberries coming up from seed. A lot of people think they're weedy, but this tree, you cannot go wrong. Yeah, you still have to maybe look at the included bark as it grows, but talk about drought tolerant, disease resistant, and a tree that you can maybe plant and get established and you walk away. Once again, these are great trees for out in the middle of nowhere, farmstead windbreak. That is one that in a beautiful yellow fall color. Then we have to look at elms. You know, this country, like Justin said, Siberian elm. The pioneers brought out all these elm. Here's an example of a 100-year-old American elm at a neighbor's yard, the old rock barn, the old rock house. And this American elm, I'm trying to get cuttings off of it to propagate it, but it survived. And so the genetics are there. And then now with the selections of trying to bring back these elms, you know, the different sources, you know, whether it's Prairie Expedition, Triumph Elm, whatever it is. One thing I missed when the Siberian elms all died out as a kid, I love the Orioles, the Baltimore Orioles, the Bullocks Orioles. They love these types of trees that kind of grow and weep, provide their hanging nests in. So my viewpoint is I'm planting elms because I like to see the Orioles out there. Yellow fall color, drought tolerant, you know, I say tolerant, showing more resistant Dutch elm. You need to get a hold of George Ocker there, and he's joining us today. He's got a trial of many of these elms that he can talk a lot more on as far as what he's seeing. But there's so many different elms that people need to really consider and get away from the concern of the Dutch elm disease. We've got to get more elms out here. The Crimson Spire Oak, I showed that picture earlier, 25-year-old tree, no water. You know, we get that red color. So many people out here in Western Nebraska want a red fall color tree. Too often we get an early freeze and you might get a nice fall color one every 5 years. But if not, if you don't want, you can plant these, get a good screen. This is one you can plant and for an oak and drought tolerant. And then once again, and this brings me back to my conservation aspect of it. Red cedar, Rocky Mountain juniper for an evergreen, in my opinion, are better than ponderosa pine. We needed a backbone for our windbreaks, our screens out here from the hazardous winter storms. I acknowledge we do have red cedar issues in the state. Fortunately, out here in Western Nebraska, we can plant Rocky Mountain juniper. Here's an example of a windbreak. You can see the Rocky Mountain juniper, then a red cedar, kind of a mix of them there. We're fortunate we can maybe, as far as conservation trees, we can direct producers to plant Rocky Mountain juniper, try to get away from red cedar. Further east you go, the higher humidity, that's not quite the case. Consider planting Pfister junipers. They're they're more the prostate growing, but they get tall enough, they can catch snow, give you some wind protection. I did this years ago, and I incorporated some oak trees in the middle. There is a NRD up there in northeastern Nebraska. They followed up with me to maybe find the source of these Pfister junipers. They're grown as liner stock. It's actually a nursery in Florida that they take cuttings on these Pfitzers. That's where we got these from years ago. So there are sources out there. Once again, you may not find them in garden centers, but due diligence, you can find a source that will work. Otherwise, Black Hill spruce. We can grow Black Hill spruce in this country without any problem. And so that's a great replacement for red cedar. Beautiful replacement for blue spruce that we're seeing more issues with. And to wrap that up, that was fairly quick. Always experiment. I don't want to go down the road how many dollars I've spent in my 50 plus years buying trees and watch them die, and planting another and watch it die. That's the only way you learn. I'm fortunate to have kind of a farm to do this on. This is, I guess, one I want to maybe spotlight. Was able to come up with a Crimson Cross oak last summer. You can still see it's got the stake with it, but this is a burrow cross with a post oak, tolerant of the high pH. Post oak I've planted over the years, always a winter kill. They just aren't cold hardy. This tree survived winter fine. That small little buds all budded out this spring. So, and then you will get that nice red fall color from the post oak characteristics. But then once again, with being a cross with the bur oak, you're going to have the cold tolerance that is needed out here in western Nebraska. So that was a quick overview. I want to make sure we got time for Hal and Chrissy, because there are many experts out here. But I'll leave it at that. And once again, I'm always open to assist anybody. If my time's a little more limited than it used to be, but that's where my passion is. So I appreciate knowing everybody I've met and continue working with everybody. And as long as you have good friends that are in trees, you'll always learn something. So thanks, Justin.
Yeah, thank you, Galen. That was awesome. Hey, I just got a couple quick questions and then we'll move on. You mentioned the lodgepole pine as a tree you're having good luck with, and then ponderosa pines are maybe struggling a little in some of our windbreaks. Should we think about maybe limber pine, pinyon pine, lodgepole pine? What's your opinion now on windbreaks and pine?
Well, in the windbreaks, I agree. My experience, I say 30, 40 years planting conservation trees, we'd always follow some tech guide. We plant ponderosa pine and we maybe alternate Austrian pine in there. We may have planted them too close together, but in the 2012 and 2022 drought was an eye opener. Some of these windbreaks were 20 years old. Austrian pine just started going downhill. We'll still plant Austrian pine, but we open our eyes. We can't really recommend it. Scotch pine, we kind of got away from it. But you go to these 20, 25-year-old windbreaks that should have been established. Ponderosa pine are there. I mean, there's really no problems there. But even those didn't look as happy as the limber pine. We incorporated limber pine in these windbreaks, and they didn't even miss a beat. I mean, they're slower growing, but looking back at some of these windbreaks, if I would have incorporated some limber pine in there, ponderosa pine, diversity, but limber pine and pinyon pine. We've got some great plantings of pinyon pine in this area and these windbreaks that slow growing, but we've got beautiful examples of like the trees you mentioned, Justin, that grow for sure.
And Galen, you've been kind enough to host a couple tours, including your place. Do you see us doing that in the future again?
Yes, I try to have the workshops out here maybe once every 4 or 5 years, whether it's to tour the limber pine, some of these windbreaks, or the hackberry hollow too. So yeah,
Yeah.
probably I would say in the next 2 years, if not 26, 27, work with the Arboretum and the Forest Service. We will get something scheduled out here again to just to give everybody an idea kind of what things grow
Yeah.
out here, and Hal too. We want to make
Yeah.
sure we get Hal involved with, especially what he's done there in Potter. You bet.
Yeah, right on. There's some bucket list places here we're talking about today, so let's plan another tour. And I will let people know that Galen collected a lot of acorns last year. I remember you had burr live and wavy leaf oak and maybe some other things. We got them out here to Great Plains Nursery. They've been germinated, Galen, and we've got a good crop of them. We're going to send back out to people who want to trial them. So we'll keep anybody on today who's interested in trialing these trees, let us know, and we'll get them out to you later in the fall. Thanks a lot, Galen. Okay, Chrissy, we'll turn it over to you now, and we'll have you. You're going to guide along whatever you're going to cover here with both Hal Innovolson and your own trees, including what Caden's uncovered too, right?
Yes.
And is it fair
So
to say maybe Galen was able to focus in on the South Panhandle a little bit, but now you're going to cover a little bit broader area?
a little bit. If Hal's talking about it, then it's probably in Potter because Hal
Right.
has quite the collection of trees in Potter, and he's got these great photos to share. And so he's gonna have a little bit of crossover, of course, with Galen. Otherwise, some of the trees that I'm talking about are kind of just all over the panhandle or trees that we've seen that successfully. But yes, also Caden has been doing a lot of tree inventories with communities across western Nebraska, and so he wants to highlight some of those unique trees that either they're just doing well or they were kind of a surprise. They were tucked in somewhere, and it was fun to find them. So, Hal, if you do you have anything to add about your Taylor sunburst?
Well, just the fact that it's the season of that thing. It's like it'll look just like a straight lodgepole by about this time of year. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. It's just that new growth that it turns that bright yellow, which I think that's maybe the best part about it. It's not yellow like that all year long. So it's like it blooms. So
Okay.
and that the straight lodgepole on the right, that was collected out of from a nursery that collects them out of the mountains. And that thing's been there probably for oh, 10, 12 years. Slow growing tree, but I love lodgepole pine, but man, trying to find those at any nurseries has been difficult. I'd plant more of those if I could find them, just a straight lodgepole.
Okay.
And it's probably I'm always looking for evergreens for tight spaces, upright and narrow evergreens that have good branching and they're not torn out by the ice and the snow. And this is Swiss stone pine. I think it's chalet. Both those two on the left.
Yeah, and
Same
Galen had
type of tree.
mentioned pinyon pine. This is a pinyon pine that's in Scottsbluff at the library, and I know Gering has some really nice big pinyon pine. Again, maybe a little bit of a slower growing, but I mean, you look at the growth, the candles on those. I mean, that's still 3 to 4 inches of growth a year. I mean, that's not, you can't ask a whole lot of a pine or many of our trees in western Nebraska. You have pinyon, don't you, in Potter?
Yeah, I get some out at the cemetery. They don't get any water at all, and that's one thing I discovered in the landscape. I used to plant a lot of pinyon, and then I put a drip system on them, and they'd start looking bad. I'd have to get the water off of those things. They like it dry.
Yes, we learned that with Amy Seiler and Gearing. They had some on the edge of town with their sign that says "Welcome to Gearing," and a water line broke and it drowned them. And they just like that was done. They went from being happy on the high plains dry, like Justin always says, living off of bird poop and dust, and they're just content as can be. Uh, so we do have some trees that you can definitely overlove with too much water. There's a big limber pine.
Yeah, so the nursery that sold me that was supposed to be Mill Creek limber pine. It's supposed to be more like Vanderwolf or something like that. Kind of and I think it's just straight. But that thing is done well there.
The big monster. It looks happy. Ponderosa pine. It needs to be in every planting. I know. I mean, it's a native tree. Why not? Like,
So the ones on the far right are just the straight, and the other ones, like I said, it's collected. It's a plant that's been dug out of the hills. You could find nurseries in Colorado that maybe still sell those. They call them character pines, but yeah, I live right below the point, and I go up there. There's trees that look just like that. I'm trying to imitate the look of the natural landscape. Maybe takes a bit of pruning in a yard to keep it to that shape.
yeah.
Otherwise, it just straighten up and it looked like the other ones in about 10 years. You couldn't tell the difference.
Huh. And then
Let's
Galen
see.
also mentioned Bosnian pine.
Yeah. So the one on the right is Emerald Arrow, Bosnian pine, and I think the other one's just straight.
Are they hard to find?
No, not the Emerald Arrow seem to be pretty easy to find. Like I say, I'm not looking for the straight Bosnian pine. Mostly, I'm looking for something upright and narrow to fit a tight space.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones Galen was talking about. I planted those along the railroad tracks in Sydney, and like I said, I didn't have much space to work with, and so I was looking for. It was a risk, but and like you said, it's pretty dry, and you can tell they look a little dry. They normally wouldn't have those brown needles this early in the year, I don't think, but I like that plant.
Wow, those are cool.
So the one that's another collected tree, that's subalpine fir. Those I don't find very often. And the white fir that's a little easier to find, but still more difficult than, like you said, the selection of evergreens at most nurseries is pretty limited to Austrian pine or whatever is easy to get. But yeah,
Right.
I like those two. Those two plants are some of my favorites.
Anytime I can get my hands on white fir or concolor fir, I do it. That smaller picture in the top is on the Curtis College campus and right next to the Union. And then this other one here, you can see me standing down here at the bottom. That's up at Crawford. That's at the cemetery, not irrigated, top of a hill, just getting beat by the wind. If somebody wants a blue spruce, don't plant one. Plant one of these. That would be, that's my pick.
Okay,
And they're
Chrissy, why
soft.
are we not recommending blue spruce anymore?
Because they blow over in a 100-mile-an-hour windstorm. They'd hate life in western Nebraska. Sorry, that's a personal
Overplanted.
preference. I need to clarify that for everybody.
We're catching, the problems are catching up with them. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
I think
We
if
came
Kimball
with that.
didn't have, if Kimball didn't have Colorado spruce, we wouldn't have many trees there. But
Right.
they're overplanted probably, right?
I question seed source too, because it seems like we've got a lot of communities across the Panhandle, western Nebraska, that have these big, beautiful blue spruce trees. I have the state champion that's in Potter. I have a picture of that one in here. And like you said, Justin, there's a bunch in Kimball, and those ones are doing great. But the ones that were planted like 30 to 40 years ago or within those, they're the ones that are not living up to our hail damage. They're not living up to our winds, and they're just not tolerating drought stress at all. But these
Yeah.
big ones are just fine. So I
Yeah.
think it's got to be seed source.
Okay, that's good to know. Here in eastern Nebraska, they're getting diseases real bad. So darn it.
Now, I agree. This is Hal's photo of a cottonwood. Cottonwood should be on everybody's list. Nobody wants to plant them. I very intentionally make sure that I get them through the fall grant program and distribute them because nobody's going to go to a nursery and choose to buy a cottonwood and plant it. But we have, as long as you put it in the right place everybody's got, a big open spot next to a pond like this, or they've got a park. They've got somewhere that if it falls apart, it can just drop wherever it's going to be. But they grow quick. They're such a tough tree. Once you get them started, just let them. And look at that beautiful fall color.
I just threw these in here. This is my son and my grandsons, how important it is to teach that younger generation, to give them that love for trees. When I was young, I was going to Bushnell, and my grandfather was a mayor, and grandma was in the garden club. We were planting trees on Arbor Days up there, and I think I contribute her to my love for trees, and I'm just wanting to pass that on, and the enjoyment that trees give. It's not so bad to have a tree to climb in. I didn't
No.
have anything in my yard. Galen talked about the weeping willow.
Yeah.
We had one in my yard. My mom cut every switch off that branch to spank my brothers on it with. I think she finally killed it. So I didn't love that tree growing up.
That's funny.
This is a ginkgo tree, and the one on the left is in Potter, and it's planted in the street, and then the one in the middle, they cut those down, much to my disappointment. That was at the drive-in bank in Sydney, and then the other one's in Potter in the street too. They're all Princeton Century. Now, the two on the right are Princeton Century, and the one on the left is out of a road ditch in Wamego, Kansas. And I saw them there and asked they were just gonna trash them, and I asked the guy that owned the nursery if he wanted to get rid of them. He shipped them to me, and there it is. So
Huh.
I've had pretty good luck with those in the street, which, like I say, it's really narrow, upright tree, good street tree. And that, when that thing in the fall, if you don't get fall color, the leaf cleanup is incredibly quick, because every leaf will drop off that tree 1 to 2 days. Every leaf will be gone.
There's one downtown Scottsbluff, and you look at these tiny little tree pits, kind of. And I say tiny little. I mean, they're not that big. I don't get it. I've tried ginkgos through the fall grant program in all kinds of different locations, and it's like the places you think it would want to grow, it dies. The places you think it wouldn't want to grow, it lives. So apparently, I need to get to know ginkgo better. Hal has luck with them. I just need him to tell me where to plant them, I guess.
So I have to say that I got really influenced at Kansas State studying trees, and reading Michael Durr's books, because he always had an opinion on trees, and in my Woody Pines class, ID class, I learned all the trees down there, and I wanted to come home back to Potter and try some of these things, and I love the fall color on the oaks. I'll tell you, the tree on the left, it takes fertilizer to keep that going in that lawn, with so much hard water that we use to water the lawns up with. The one on the right sits, like you can see, just in a gravel spot. I don't think it's ever been fertilized. So it's a good tree, but if you're gonna plant it in like your yard, you're gonna have to fertilize it. And this is Texas red oak, Corcus bucklei, with the cool backdrop of green ash, that real bright yellow one. But yeah, that's, like I said, I've had to fertilize that a little bit, but not too much. And then the white oaks, those, like those trees too. Good fall color. And the one thing about the white oak is it holds its leaves all year, so it creates winter shade. So I made some mistakes planting that, where I get shade on the sidewalk all winter long, and I have an ice problem. This is a scarlet oak, and it takes a little fertilizing too. It's got nice fall color, and it also, the leaves stay on that tree all winter long.
Hal, when you say fertilizer, do you specifically mean sulfur or iron
Yeah,
based?
just sulfur. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just sulfur and iron. The
Okay.
sulfur's key to that. Yeah.
This is a prairie stature oak, and it is a cross. It's actually very closely related to the crimson spire oak. It's just not a tight upright form. This is the one that I have in my yard, and I tell you what, I don't water it. The far right picture is from just a few weeks ago, and it's in a matter of a few years filled out really nice. The one thing that I have learned using this tree in the fall grant program is that if you put it where you're going to water it a lot, the graft tends to sucker a lot. But as soon as you stop watering it, the graft does not sucker. When we had all that rain, crazy rain a few years ago, I had all kinds of suckers coming up around the base of it. But this is on the west side of my house. This is completely open and exposed. It's a tough tree. I mean, just like Galen was talking about those crimson spires. So definitely something that we're trying to use a little bit more in the landscape, but beautiful fall color.
These are a couple of English oaks, probably planted in the late 80s, early 90s. They came from Marshall Nursery in Nebraska, and I don't think they get a lot of fertilizer. They do really well in that. Of course, that soil is really rich down at the lower part of Potter. And this is I'm with Galen on that chinkapin oak. I just started planting those a little bit more, and I'm encouraged. The growth rate's incredible on those.
It is. That picture that you have there in the middle, that I mean, you look at that growth on a year. I think it's a tree that once you get it established, it's fine. Grammy actually asked about establishment care. Um, you have to mulch your trees, I think. And once you have them established, maybe as long as you pick the tough ones, then they don't need mulch quite as much. I mean, like that prairie statue I had in my yard, I don't have mulch on it right now. My chickens just rake it all off. But probably for the first like 2 to 3 years, you're watering, when you first put that tree in the ground, you're definitely watering at least weekly. And then throughout the year, every couple of weeks. I mean, the thing is our soils change so much from being silty loam, sandy to like a clay loam, and it matters on where you are. Use the screwdriver technique to figure out what, your water content is, and just watch your tree. I mean, it's gonna tell you when it needs water. At the zoo here in Scottsbluff, we just planted a whole bunch of trees in the parking lot, and we got 5-gallon buckets and drilled 2 quarter-inch holes in it and got quarter-inch tubing and put drippers on the end of it. And so it's a gravity-fed system. And so what's easy for the staff is they go by, open the lid on it, which has a hole drilled in the top so it'll not vapor lock the whole thing, fill up the 5-gallon bucket, and they probably do that once every 2 weeks. But I think the most critical thing in establishing trees in Western Nebraska is winter watering. Every holiday, you need to be checking your trees and getting them some water, especially these last few years. Drought. You think about it, you turn on your sprinklers in May, Memorial Day, and you shut them off, say Labor Day, May, June, July, August, September, October-ish. You've got 6 months that you're bottle feeding things with automatic irrigation systems, and then 6 months where you're saying, haha, good luck. Hopefully Mother Nature gives you some snow that actually melts to water everything. And so, but there's a lot of these trees, I mean, like the chinkapin oak, you get it established, and it definitely doesn't need that much water after getting set. The trick about the chinkapin oak that I was told recently by Tim Buchanan out of Fort Collins was go shop for your chinkapin oak in the fall, because their genetics are so they vary a lot in what fall color that oak is going to turn. And he had found an oak in Fort Collins that they're taking cuttings off of, and I think he calls it autumn red or something like that, and it is Husker red. The Scottsbluff Cemetery, they got one of these chinkapin oaks out of Fort Collins, and they got lucky and they got one of them. And when I saw this tree, I just stopped, and it's the most beautiful thing. So your chinkapin oak, you can get yellowish orange fall color or Husker red fall color. So, and then this is in Oshkosh, Nebraska. Big, beautiful old chinkapin oak. There's a lot in gearing. I like their texture. I mean, they look different. Very dark green leaves, glossy. They're cool. I like them.
Oh, excuse me, I thought I needed a coffee tree at the coffee shop, and they told me that street trees only lasted about 10 years. And so I was experimenting with some different ideas. And so I said, well, if they only last 10 years, I guess we'll try a coffee tree in there. And that's been since, well, probably the mid-90s, that coffee tree's been there.
And not many people see the blooms on coffee trees. I'm a beekeeper and I pay attention to my bumblebees and my native bees a lot. And I'm always interested to see trees that the pollinators are interested in. And I happened to be walking through a park in Scottsbluff when the coffee trees were in bloom. And it was just the perfect opportunity to get some pictures of what those blooms look like. And man, were those trees just buzzing. They were just absolutely covered in pollinators. They loved it.
Yeah, and those coffee trees are fragrant too when they're blown.
Yes. That was actually what stopped me because I was like, something's got flowers on it. I can smell it. Where is it? What is it?
So the sugarberry was something that I found in a nursery in Brighton, and the project called for hackberry, and I like hackberry, and like I said, we still plant a lot of hackberry too, but I was interested in the sugarberry, I read a lot about it, and so originally when I had planted this, it had mulch in it, and it upsets me every time I go to a project and they've rocked the thing, but I don't know how much better the tree would be doing if it had been mulched instead of rocked, but it seems to be it- not as like I was expecting hackberry growth out of it. And everything I read about a sugarberry, this doesn't seem to be the habit that they would normally have, but maybe in western Nebraska. I don't see a lot of dieback, but it's kind of a messy, moppy tree. It's like I say, it wasn't what I'd planned, but it's an interesting tree. The tree in the middle is a Royal Frost birch tree, and that's the fall color. And this time of year, it's just like a dark maroon purple. And then the one I'm really encouraged by this one on the right, the Rocky Mountain. So I'm going to start using that as a street. I'm going to try it as a street tree. I'm looking for some smaller type trees with narrow upright trees. I think that might fit the bill on that. I've had good luck with them so far.
Those are
It's a tree that
awesome.
we've been bringing in through the fall grant program, and so far, almost everywhere we've put it, I mean, unless the individual tree had like a root issue or something, going on with that one tree, they've been very successful in surviving in our high pH, and they're tolerating our high pH water. Because, I mean, you can treat the soil all you want, but every time you water, you're just adding high pH water back to it. I mean, it's a give and take situation. So, but beautiful fall color.
Where is that sugarberry, Hal?
That's in the parking lot across from the regional Cabela's building downtown.
Okay, thanks.
I've already got about 5 or 6 of those in there. And this Green Mountain sugar maple. I've never fertilized that thing. I probably wasn't ever expecting that tree to grow to that size when I planted it there. It was just kind of like let's try this. Let's try this out here. But yeah, I've been impressed with that. The worst part is the swallows get in there and make a mess on the sidewalk because it's so dense. And then the Crimson King Norway maple is probably about a block or so from it. I don't plant many of those. I had a customer that wanted that, or maybe I influenced him that way and wanted to try it, but it's done well too.
Yeah, if you're gonna plant a Norway maple, Crimson King is definitely one of the better ones I've seen. I mean, in all the tree inventories, I mean, they stand out, and they're all over the western half and the Panhandle.
And
I
there I
had to
know
keep
there's
this in
Justin's
here.
favorite.
Yay. I was hoping you'd highlight that.
Look at the character of that thing.
I'm not a big fan of Russian olive, but like, and this, I don't, this is on my place and it's never, I've never had any other Russian olives come up anywhere. And there's nothing along the creek close by and out by itself doing its own thing. And the horses kind of, when they were out there, they kind of whittled away on it, but it survives a lot of things that some trees wouldn't.
My neighbor has one that shades the west side of her house, and just a tough spot. I mean, here's the thing. If they're gonna grow on their own, leave them alone. I mean, there are places where, yes, they need to be managed and they're not the best tree. But also in Western Nebraska, we have some really tough sites. And if a tree is gonna grow, let it grow. She called me one day and she's like, I have a swarm of your honeybees at my house. And I'm like, I'll stop by and check. No, what happened was it was in bloom. And probably all 5 of my hives with hundreds of thousands of bees were just on this one tree, harvesting as much as they possibly could from this. I've been told that the Russian olive honey can somewhat taste like licorice, but I've not been able to like isolate it. So I don't know. Anyways, this is a cool tree that you have.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they did the same thing here. They brought in a bunch of dirt and put rock around this area, and that tree fizzled in probably 2 or 3 years, and so it's gone. This is a picture taken on like July 4th. I call it the Independence Day tree. It looks like fireworks. I love the blossom. It doesn't smell good and it's messy, but in the right place. I did get some chestnuts off of there and roasted them, and they tasted like cauliflower to me. I don't know
Hmm.
what anybody else thinks about roasted chestnuts, but I would have eaten some more of them. And then the tree on the right, the autumn treasure hornbeam, that was a tree I got familiar with in Kansas again, and I've just been looking for that, and they finally came out with a variety of that we're gonna try that in the streets too.
We have hornbeam across the panhandle of Western Nebraska that are doing well. It's definitely a tree that we're trying to trial more. Galen had mentioned the Elmo trials at Tri Trails Park in Ogallala that George has going on. I find it interesting because Hal had sent me this picture of this frontier elm, and I remember having a conversation with George that frontier elm is like the only elm that did not want to live on this property. I told him that he had to leave the sign for frontier elm so that people know that we have trialed it and that it has died like 3 times. I can't get them to grow, but how you were saying that this one here is on the east side of this tall building, so it's a little bit more protected. Scottsbluff downtown, they had like 4 or 5 of them, lived for probably 5, 6 years, and then one of our awful snap freezes just croaked every single one of them.
Yeah, I don't know how that tree's still alive. I planted that at the right height, at the right depth, and then the people that own the property came and put those boxes around them and filled that full of
Oh,
mulch too, and then that it had the it was supposed to, I usually edge my trees with like something to keep the grass away from them, but the grass has grown up and now so it's growing there. So the weed eating is still a problem with what he's done around the tree, and it does have a little weed eater damage to it too, but it's hanging on.
I didn't have any other picture of Princeton elm. This one is in Arapahoe. Well, Arapahoe's still western Nebraska. It's west central. It's a big leaf. It's one of the American elm cultivars, but then Alkalade elm is one of the ones that's crossed with Siberian elm. This one is at my house, and I will argue for an Accolade elm any day, all day. I planted this tree 5 years ago and it was shorter than my gutter. I mean, it has the growth rate on it is absolutely amazing. We used to have these big, huge Siberian elms that stood over our house, and unfortunately, when we bought it, our insurance company told us we had to take them down. And so I wanted that shade back, and I'm excited this tree just keeps performing and putting on new growth every year. So yes, it's a little hairier and it looks a little more like a Siberian elm, and some people don't like it, but that's fine. Here's another tree, little leaf linden. This was obviously in bloom, and the pollinators were going crazy with it. American linden. This is in Gearing. Just that beautiful fall color. I mean, they're tough trees. They'll grow in tough places. Um, Galen had mentioned the Bismarck, North Dakota Sycamore Seed Source. So this is at Bessie Nursery, this picture on the right. This is the original tree, the parent tree that they're collecting all the seed source from in Bismarck. They are 300 and some miles straight north of North Platte. And so it makes sense why this tree is surviving and doing well for us. This left photo is at Helen Park or Helen Lake in Gothenburg. That's Noah there. They have dredged the pond and pulled the soil out. And so it is just awful, awful soil in this location. And this tree is doing just fine. The one here in the middle is that's Jerry Harden with the Gordon tree board. They have it kind of in this bottom spot and it's shaded. And man, the growth rate on that thing is almost like 3 feet a year. That's me trimming the branches back, trying to keep it in check. And then the far one on the right is in Valentine at the cemetery, completely exposed to the western winds and absolutely no dieback. I mean, this tree is proving to be really, really tough. Catalpa, I feel like, is a tree that is not utilized as much. This is a tree that's in Grant, Nebraska, here on the left. And you just look at how much shade it's casting on that house. And the pollinators, the bees, the bumblebees, they love the flowers. And who doesn't want a tree that flowers in June? Don't tell me that you don't want the pods. I don't want to hear it. Just, there's way too many other benefits for somebody to say, oh, I don't want it. This is one of my favorite trees that is very underutilized, I think. Ohio Buckeye, beautiful fall color. This is a tree. This is a Scottsbluff County Fairgrounds down here, down the street. This property is like borderline abandoned. Absolutely no irrigation. Most of the time the weeds are standing like 3 foot tall. This tree does not get any irrigation. And it is just absolutely happy as a clam. But that's the beautiful fall color to it. The squirrels will pick up the buckeyes. Don't worry about the buckeyes. A couple of the cool trees that Caden has. Caden, I'll talk about the yellowwood here real quick. This is at Scottsbluff Centennial Park, and I think, Hal, are you the one who planted this?
If I didn't plant it, I recommended it, so I'm not sure. I love that tree.
This is an up close. Again, I got lucky and it was blooming. And again, the bumblebees were just all over it. These nice little pea-sized flowers. All right, Caden, what's this one?
So there was a golden rain tree I found in Scotts Bluff. I think I only found about 4 of them in town. They're all right next to each other on this property, and the two or three others next to that weren't doing very well, but that one there was doing the best. Caught of the pods on there and stuff. So, and then this is a Korean fir that I found in Kozad. Not sure where this came from. I'd never seen anything like that doing my inventories and stuff. So, but I think people had tried trialing or tried 2 others on that property that had failed. So I'm not sure how well that Korean fir will do in the future with our conditions and stuff. But
Right.
this
He
one was
looks a
doing
little
all
rough.
right.
My theory was that somebody got a Christmas tree that was in a pot and they decided to go put it in the landscape, and this is what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then this Ammermachia, it's in the same park as the Yellowwood. It's doing pretty good, and we caught it. That picture was taken a couple weeks ago, so
It's in bloom. Again, the pollinators love it. It's a tree that's done well, and I mean, it's a smaller, if you're looking for, a medium-sized tree, it seems to be doing well for us. All right, Caden, we got to go fast.
no, yeah. So this was one of my biggest surprise finds in Scotts Bluff was this massive sycamore tree, and or was it kind of by community Christian school neighborhood area? So river birch, found this, thought that was pretty unique. One of the only ones I found in town. Maturing an apricot.
Just growing in the rocks, right on the side of the road. This is a Turkish filbert that Amy had planted at the Gearing Junior High that is doing really well. It's got a very nice tight form to it, upright, a really pretty, I think it looks like a grape leaf, kind of.
Bristlecone pine. I thought that was pretty unique too. Yeah. A really big and nice looking mountain ash and minotaur on their school grounds.
Hayden wants to make that the new state champion of,
Hopefully.
and yeah. And while we were talking about the blue spruce, this is the state champion blue spruce for the state of Nebraska. And you can see our group of people all standing underneath it. The trunk on that thing is absolutely massive. The height of it is huge. I mean, it's just, when I first saw it, there was a car trailer parked here, and it was just impressive to see it. There's a white spruce standing just right behind it. Maybe that's the tree we need to go and start collecting some seed off of somehow and getting it put in the ground, or getting it into production. I want to show just two of the trees that I'm really excited about that I've recently learned is the Gila Monster Oak, and this is a plant select introduction. It is a seed strain selection of Gamble Oak that, instead of being a little bit more shrubbier, it's supposed to be a strong central leader. This is out of Colorado, and so I'm excited to hopefully get our hands on a couple of these this fall and bring them in through the fall grant program and trial them.
Hey, Chrissy, can I interrupt real quick? I got a bunch of those Gila Monster Gamble Oaks from Fort Collins years ago, and I've got them out planted. They're about 3 to 4 foot tall now. I might work with you this fall or next fall to maybe we can dig them up. I've got a source of them, so yeah.
Okay, all right, I'm all about it. It was the first time I went to Pro Green Expo back in January. It's the first time I heard about them, and I'm like, yes, we need that, because we know that Gamble Oak does well for us. Just a lot of people would rather have a nice, strong central leader tree. And going with Galen's crosses and oaks and everything else, this is Schwetz or Shooty, however you want to say it. It's a cross between swamp white oak and bur oak. And the growth rate, we've got one here in Gearing in the lawn, and each year that tree is putting on easily over 2 foot of growth. I mean, it is absolutely impressive. It's handling Gearing's terrible like clay soil, and the high pH water. And so hoping that we got some of those in the ground this last fall. I'm just throwing this in here. This was a bunch of the trees that Hal talked about. Caden's list of some cool trees that we've come across through some different tree inventories. And then I just wanted to note, this is kind of my list of trees that for Western Nebraska, that they are reliable. They're just underutilized, in my opinion. The Ohio Buckeye, the Amromachia, you get it established, it's going to be, it can live in some tough spots. Canada Red Chokecherry, everybody just looks it over. Sucker Punch is an introduction out of Fort Collins that is not supposed to sucker. I am still testing this tree. I don't have any that are more than 5 years old. But the original parent, I mean, Fort Collins Wholesale Nursery isn't really going to introduce something unless they're sure about it. So, and then Chinkapin Oak, Catalpa, Concolor Fir, Hackberry, and American Elm. Pinyon Pine is probably one that needs to go on there. And then these are some of the trees that we've been trialing through the fall grant program in Western Nebraska since 23. We did put out a bunch of bald cypress over the last couple years, and we've got one in Gordon that's doing all right. I mean, it hasn't froze and it hasn't died, so that's good. The Caddo sugar maples, powder keg and flash fire. They are higher pH tolerant. Definitely something that we're trying to see, can we push it this far? They're doing good in central Nebraska. The Fall Fiesta sugar maple is another one. What was the Green Mountain sugar maple is the one that Hal had. That was that beautiful fall color. So maybe I need to be hunting down some more Green Mountain. Last year we did some Osage Orange, White Shield. There's one in Bridgeport still alive. That Prairie Stature Oak. We got some Northern Acclaim Honey Locust, which is coming out of Minnesota, I think it is. And then this year, one of the other ones other than the Gila Monster oaks is the True North and the Decaf Kentucky coffee tree. I am over espresso. They die. I probably 8 out of 10. They freeze and they die back to the graft. And then they take over, and then at that point you don't know what the rootstock is, if it's male or female. Every now and then they'll work. And then American hornbeam, hop hornbeam, ironwood, yellowwood, shoemart oak, shingle oak, Schwet oak, shooty, and then of course eyestopper cork tree. Cork tree, you know, for eastern Nebraska is a tree that's questionable about it moving. However, we've got some big ones. I mean, Hal's got a big one in the park in Potter. We've got one in Imperial. I think there's one here in Scottsbluff too, and it's not gonna move for us like it would in wetter climates. And so I still think that it's a tree that we need to keep on our list of things to plant to maintain some diversity. Otherwise, that is all I got.
That's awesome. Good job, guys. Hey, Chrissy, that tree list too, I'll pull together and we'll put it into a Word document or a PDF if people want it. Just send me an email and I'll email it to you, or we'll have it available somewhere somehow. And then I got a quick question for both. Galen, are you still on? And Hal?
I'm
Maybe
still
you
on.
can-
Yeah.
I didn't hear anybody mention Swiss stone pine. Are you still happy with the Swiss stone pines?
Yeah, that was that one at Chalet that I
Oh,
showed.
okay, okay.
But that's not there is just a Swiss stone pine too. Yeah.
Okay, I forgot. Yeah, you had that covered, right? I see so many nice ones out there too, so.
Well, we got some nice ones here at the NRD planted 15 years ago. They're doing great. Algonquin pillar is one that really
Okay.
stands out, and we got a couple others. But yes, yeah, that is a good one.
Wow, yeah, awesome. That was a cool list of trees you guys all pulled together. Who knew all this stuff grew out in western Nebraska? Well, you guys do, because you've been planting them, so I love it. Graham, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I've got it in the chat. Everybody that either has some feedback they want to provide us about the webinars, or you have CEU needs for NAA, ISA, or SAF, click the link in the chat and that will take you to a form where you can give us your information and we will submit that stuff on your behalf early next week so you can get your continuing education. But
And
even
they
if you just want to tell us how we're doing.
They need to fill it out before we shut off here. Is that right?
Yeah, if you can't, if you got to run or something, at least click the link so you've got it open.
Okay.
And I think on Monday I'll just finalize all that and get it sent off to all those organizations.
All right. Awesome. Man, this was good. Who has questions out there? Anybody online have a question?
There is a question in the chat, Justin.
Okay. What is that question?
First off, searching where Caro, Nebraska is.
Yeah, right.
So I'd be interested in planting some trial burr oak and cottonwood and Osage orange at our place north of Caro this fall, needing to restore an old windbreak and plant new drift-resistant brake. Who should I contact to get started? And it looks like you are just northwest of Grand Island. Who would be our contact around Grand Island, Justin?
To find the trees?
And
Yeah.
actually, I'm also helping out with Pamela's site too.
Okay, cool.
All right.
See, you've already got a forester on your team.
Yeah, I would say maybe reach out to us privately. We don't want to advertise all the nurseries, but we can put you in touch with nurseries who will have these trees, and we can vouch for trees coming out of the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum, which are usually seedlings or small trees. So, hey, Hal, do you still help people find trees out in
Yeah.
your part of the world?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good question. And I think both Galen and Hal mentioned that a lot of these trees are not easy to find at a retail nursery or a home store or something like that. You got to do a little digging. And I'm always happy to be a person to pivot these questions to people who have the trees. So just don't hesitate to send me an email that you're looking for something, or you too, Chrissy, I assume, and we'll help you try to track it down.
I'll probably send you to Hal because that's
Yeah,
favorite things to do is to go hunt trees down.
right.
At least I think it is.
It is, yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I just want to say thanks so much, Justin, for having us on here. Thanks so much, Hal, for being a part of this today. And Galen, two of you have a lot more experience than I do on trialing trees in the tough western plains of Nebraska. And so I just get to see what people planted. And half of them are things that the two of you planted a long time ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, their impact is incredible, and it really does make our lives more enjoyable. I love the short prairie when I go home to find the wildflowers and all of that. But at the end of the day, I want shade. I go to the shade trees around the farmhouse, and some of this stuff that Hal got us years ago, and they really make our lives a whole lot better wherever we're at. So let's keep planting
absolutely.
trees. I'll keep the line open for a little while here for people who are doing the CEUs. That link is still in there, so grab that if you need it. And then otherwise, we'll just say you're free to leave. This is America. Leave whenever you want. But we can stay on the line. Are there anybody else out there have questions specifically for Hal or Galen or Chrissy? If not, feel free to leave, people. Thank you all for joining us. And we will be back on next month. We'll have Bob Henriksen on, and he and I are going to highlight trees for fall color to watch out for. And we saw really a lot of great trees today from your images, Chrissy and Galen, for fall color. So we might steal some of those. And then we're going to talk about propagation of trees with Bob from the Statewide Arboretum. So that'll be next month, September 12th. Join us back then.